Hey church, we're so excited that you chose to come and worship with us today. If you're new to our church family, we want to get to know you so that we can partner with you on your faith journey. To connect with us, visit fbca.com/hope. Ladies, we'd like to invite you to join First City Women next Sunday for a Flourish lunch event immediately following our 11 a.m. worship gatherings in the gym. Be sure to grab your tickets in the Commons today or online at fbca.com. As you begin to make your summer plans, be sure to visit fbca.com/register to learn more about how you can stay connected this season. Now, let's jump in to week 4 of Stories Worth Sharing with David Pollack.
Good morning, everybody. Who's glad to be in church this morning? Glad to see all of you here today. And we want to say a quick welcome to everybody coming to us live from over in the chapel. Also, all those worshiping with us online. Put your hands here. Let's welcome in the rest of our church family as well. We love you guys. We're glad that you're with us today. And over the last several weeks, even just the week before Easter on Palm Sunday, we kicked off a new series and we called it Stories Worth Sharing. And the whole idea was, how does the true story of Jesus' death and resurrection, how does it impact our story still today? And we've been tracing this out and telling you several different stories of how God's impacted people, even here in the life of our church. But we thought today would be fun to do something a little bit different, show you how the true story of Jesus has an impact in a life that so many people know. And we're so grateful today to have the opportunity to sit down for a conversation with David Pollack, 3-time All-American from UGA, also college game day host. Would you help me welcome David Pollack today? Cool, man.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks so much for being here.
This crowd's already rowdier than the first one.
Oh, man, they're ready. I mean, by the time you get to 11 o'clock, they're caffeinated.
It's ready to roll,
you know?
yeah.
They're ready to go.
Got a couple cups of coffee, we're good to go.
Exactly. Now, I'm going to start here because I told you at the first service, right when I walked through the door, first time, walked through there, there's a lady in her 80s, and she stopped me. And she said, now, Pastor, tell me again, who's the David Pollack that's coming here? And why is he important? And so let's just start there. So let's start there. Let's start with just, hey, where are you from? You didn't grow up far from here, Shiloh High School. Tell us a little bit about your life growing up, childhood, high school, playing football, all those things.
Well, I was born in New Brunswick, New Jersey.
Okay.
And we moved down south, thank the good Lord, when I was young. And my daddy always told me, he was like, you're going to be a Scarlet Knight. I'm like, what the heck is a Scarlet Knight? He's like, go to Rutgers. I was like, definitely not. But I grew up, and then my brother, I have an older brother, and he started football when he was 6, and I was 4. And let's just put it this way, we knew that the passion was football. It was evident because I was tackling everyone in sight on the sidelines. I was tackling my brother with pads on. I didn't have pads on. I was tackling everybody, and I tell everybody all the time it got weird because I tackled a cheerleader and I got in trouble for that. But it was apparent that when I was 6 years old, I would be playing football.
Yeah.
And did not grow up in a Christian household, and we'll get more into my story. But I love sports. My daddy was my coach, and played football growing up. Loved football, and got into high school at Shiloh High School, and it wasn't probably as easy as everybody thinks. I think a lot of times people see my story and they're like, oh, I bet you were really good. And my freshman year, I come in, they're like, what position do you play? And I was like, fullback or running back and linebacker. And they're like, and we ran 40s the day before, and I ran a 6-flat 40, and they're like, nah, you don't. You play offensive line. So I played offensive line as a freshman. My sophomore year, I was kind of between varsity and JV. I didn't play at all, really. And actually went to my coach and quit. And I was like, hey, this stinks. He was convincing me to work out again. He's like, hey, just come work out with me, get big, get strong. And he was like, the girls will like you more. I was like, all right, fine, we'll do it. So started to work out, and then I grew, 5-6 inches, gained 60 pounds, got super strong. And the same freshman coach that moved me to offensive line actually took over as the varsity coach, and he moved me back to fullback. So it was kind of full circle. But then I started to have some success with high school football.
That's awesome. And then, you go from there, high school, obviously have a great career. You recruited, you go play at UGA, you go and play the highest level in NFL. And there's one word that I keep on, hearing. As I followed your career and so many others have, it's the word that I hear over and over and over again. It's the word disruptive. Like, you're just disruptive. Every time you get into a play, it's going to get disruptive. You blow things up.
Well, life too. My wife, my mom, everybody, my kids, probably disruptive is a good word.
That's right. In fact, Coach Rick, if you haven't read his book, Make the Call, it's a great book. But he says this about you. He writes about you in there over several pages. A lot of baggage he had to unpack there. But anyways, he just said, probably the most relentless player that I've ever been around. That's what he said about you. He also said that you were popularly unpopular because of the tenacity and the work ethic that you put upon not only yourself, but your teammates as well. So how did you go?
Is that a compliment, by the way?
It's
That dude was popularly unpopular.
popular. It's a Christian way of saying you were a jerk. That's
Yeah,
what
I
he's
think so.
basically
I think so.
trying to say
I like
to you
that.
right there.
That's
Yeah.
Christian. Well, we need to pray for so-and-so, right?
Yeah,
That's
exactly,
the Christian way to do it. Like,
So how do you go from, okay, here's the guy, he gets after freshman year, he's like, man, I'm going to quit. I mean, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. How do you go from there to being one of the most tenacious guys on the field? I'm not going to quit. I'm going to keep going. I'm relentless. How do you go, and how do you have that relentless ability?
well, when I had a lot of people in my life that were really awesome, but Eddie Shacks is the one who talked me into working back out. And then I'll never forget, after my junior year, going into my senior year, we had another new coach in high school, which that's another story for another day. I had a bunch of coaches in 4 years. And I'll never forget, he pulled me in his office, and he showed me some clips. And so I'm a kid now that has offers from Georgia, Clemson, Ohio State, Georgia Tech. And he pulls me in his office, and he starts to play the tape for me. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, if we're going to win a state championship next year, he's like, you're going to have to play harder. And I was like, I'm the best player you got. What you talking about, Willis? Like, and he started to show clips, and he was absolutely right. And I could just see, I wasn't playing as hard as I could. And I watched it again and watched it again. And I was like, crap, that was a moment for me as a high school junior that I was like, I got to do better than that. Mm-hmm. And it made me practice harder, made me play harder. But I've always had a little edge, and I get it from my mama. She's, if you saw my daddy and mama, you'd be like, yeah, that's not, an athlete's not coming from them. I mean, daddy's like 5'10 and a half, 185. Mama's 5'10 and a half. She's lost a bunch of weight, 185. I always tell my mom, I'm like, thank God I got your legs and booty. So a little bit, she's a little bit different, but so I've always had my mom's personality. Like, she's fiery and super competitive. And it's been my greatest strength and my biggest weakness. And I say that because I have made good things happen in competitive atmospheres and been very successful, and I've been an absolute jerk in competitive atmospheres. So I with board games, flipping them over, with my wife running to the bedroom crying because we're playing Taboo and I'm trying to cheat or trying to make a big deal of it. So it's been something that I've definitely had to work on along the way, but it's a competitive spirit. It's always been for me, and this is for all of us, I think. To me, it's liked versus respected. Mm-hmm. I didn't care to be liked. I don't care to be liked now. I mean, I'm not looking for approval of everybody, but I do want to be respected, and I do want to carry myself in a manner which you respect me, because some people don't like talkative people. Some people don't like shy people. Some people don't like rich people. Some people don't like poor people. Some people don't like people. Mm-hmm. Y'all know them people. Some people don't like people. They just don't like them. Like, right? Yeah. So, I've always I think I'm trying to be respected. I'm trying to live my life in a way that honor and glorifies God, no matter, what people think or what people do. And so I've always had kind of that thing, which has always led people to not like me and some people to love me. So kind of sounds like a country song, but.
You said something there, and I think that's really important, right? Because you said, my goal has been not necessarily to be liked, but my goal is really to be respected and to glorify God. And so obviously at a certain point, faith becomes a part of your journey, right? And so walk us through a little about what happened. You've said before, you didn't grow up in a believing home. You didn't have like a whole lot of background and that kind of thing. It wasn't like, you weren't baptized as an infant and there every Sunday, those kinds of things. And so how did you kind of get to a place where faith entered into your life, intersected with you?
My family, passed and through high school, my family us four had never been to a church in our lives together. Mm-hmm. We had never been to church one time. Mom and dad did not grow up believers. Brother did not grow up a believer. And so I had never really heard much about God. And I'll never forget, my neighbor asked me my junior year, he asked me, he's like, hey, you want to come with me to a lockout? And I was like, what's that? He's like, that's when you go to like the church. And I was like, don't know much about the church. He's like, but they lock you in the play area and you play games all night. I was like, all night? Like, yeah, you get to stay up basically all night. I'm like, in. I'm in for sure. Who wasn't going to be in, as junior in high school? And for the first time there, we played sports, and like y'all are smart. Y'all do lockouts for a reason. You try to give people, a little bit about the gospel, and it's the first time I'd heard about Jesus. And so that was the first seed I had planted. And then fast forward, in school, I had a teacher named Mark Watson. He was my physics teacher. And he had the Jesus sticker and the Jesus on the computer, and I thought he was a Jesus freak. I called him a Jesus freak. This cord is killing me, by the way. There we go. All right. I called him a Jesus freak. And I have a gift. It's a spiritual gift, actually, of annoyance. I can annoy teachers, people around me. You're around me enough, like I'm high energy and kind of annoying. And this dude, I could not annoy him. And it drove me nuts. Like, I could not get under his skin. And so for that summer, or for the next year for English, for outside reading, you had to pick 200 pages of a book. And I picked the Bible. And my English teacher was like, nope. I can't read this with you. Like, I'm not going to. I was like, I bet Mr. Watson can. And so I ended up sitting down with Mark Watson and started to read the Bible for the very first time ever. And he was like, start with the Gospels and start with Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, different people that followed around Jesus, different backgrounds, different occupations, different sides of the same story. And I'm learning all this for the first time. And actually, I tell people that all the time. When you start with the Bible, if you want to start reading, start with the Gospels. Start reading the Gospels, and it's a lot easier than Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, when there's a lot of background that's kind of confusing and can be very confusing. And I started to read it, and it absolutely started to jump off the pages.
Wow.
And completely changed my life, completely changed my journey, and it turned perfectly for me into Georgia with Coach Rick. It was amazing what God literally did in that one small moment at a lockout, and then reading my Bible, and then becoming saved and beginning my Christian journey.
So you accept Christ in high school, but then you're thrust not only into college athletics, but also being on Coach Rick's team. And he ends up having a tremendous influence in your life. Tell us a little bit more about what that looked like, not just to advance you as a player, but also in your faith as well.
Oh, yeah. Well, I have my daddy's awesome. And my daddy was my coach growing up, and he's an absolute stud. He's one of the coolest dudes you'll ever meet, very different, never lost his temper. I can count on one hand how many times he ever lost his temper with me. But faith wasn't a part of our journey. But when I got Coach Rick, I got to see what a real man looked like. Yeah. And I got to see what a man looked like that would teach you how to compete and work, but that there was more important things than just football. And by the way, still to this day with Coach Rick, he's in a Bible study with me every Wednesday morning at 6 a.m., and he's still teaching us. Wow. And he's still pouring into us, and he's still an unbelievable example of, in the face of adversity, whatever's going on, being totally content with whatever's happening in his life. And so that was it was huge for me. It was huge. Getting plugged in with FCA, starting to memorize Scripture and put Scripture in my heart. And why is that important? Think about it. I got to Georgia, and I got a playbook that this fat, and it tells you in every situation your answer, right? If you're playing cover 2, you're playing cover 3, what you're supposed to do, what your answer is for every formation. That's what the Bible is. God gave us a playbook to go through our lives for every situation, every single situation. There's some jacked up situations in the Bible. Yeah. If you ain't read it, there's some jacked up situations.
True.
And there's some jacked up people, just like me and just like you, that did amazing things. But being able to arm yourself with Scripture, so when I feel anxiety, I know exactly, God didn't give me the spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and a sound mind. That doesn't come from God. And so I started to do that with Chappie, our team chaplain, and memorize Scripture, started to speak at FCA and learn how to speak and learn how to share my faith, which was all completely new, man. I was a blank canvas coming to college, and then having FCA, having faith, having Coach Rick, man, it made college easy. And I shouldn't say that, but it was easy because I knew God was in control, and he was driving the ship.
That's incredible. So now, I think for a lot of people who kind of follow your story to this point, they're going to go, okay, well, that's great. You had this natural ability. Yes, you worked hard for it, but then you had great opportunities, and you came to faith, and your life has kind of been easy. Your faith has kind of been easy up to this point, but it hasn't been necessarily always. And I'll take you back to the day that I know this is burdened upon your heart, September 17th, 2006. It's your second season in the league, and it's like second play of the game. And then you're laid out on the turf there, and you can't move. your neck is broken, you take you off there on a stretcher, you give everybody the thumbs up, but everything is wrong. And yet you've been able to say, looking back on that day, massive trajectory change. You said this is actually from your page, you said, the day I broke my neck was the best day of my life. How is it that you're able to say that, knowing everything that you lost on that day and kind of how that changed your trajectory in life?
Well, I didn't lose anything that day. I think at the time I thought I did. And from when I was 6 years old, I would have told all y'all, and I told everybody that was around me in Gwinnett County, I was like, I'm going to play in the NFL. Like, that's what I'm going to do. And I got plenty of pats on the head, and that's cute. Everybody else does too. But I always, and I tell people that now, like, listen, you got big plans, you got big dreams. Don't let people tell you what you can and can't do. God can do amazing things. And he did through my life, but he did something else amazing that day. And I had a chance to come to faith and go to the University of Georgia, sign a scholarship, be a freshman All-American, be an All-American my next 3 years on campus. And it was awesome. And that's great. And everything was climbing into where I wanted to go, but that ain't life. Like, in life, we're going to have things that absolutely kick us right in the face. I mean, we're going to have things that absolutely, it's not if, it's when.
Yeah.
For all of us. Like most of y'all old enough in this room, you've experienced, it's coming for us. Adversity's coming. And it was amazing for me because I got an opportunity like, what are you about now? You tell me this, you speak at FCA, you got God in your heart, you tell me about Jesus, you tell me to do this, you tell me to do that. Well, now things got real.
Yeah.
And the Bible says, be still and know that I am God. I didn't do that. I didn't do that. I wasn't still. I have a hard time till this day with it. I mean, I am trying to get in whatever I can get in. And at that time, it was video games. And this is going to sound familiar with y'all. Get up, go to your first appointment, go to your next appointment, video games. This was college, obviously. I mean, I love video games now, too. I just don't get to play them as much. Video games, and then you had all of your obligations, all your things. You come home, it's really quiet. You turn the TV on, you turn SportsCenter on, you turn the NBA playoffs on, you turn football on. Like busy, 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 busy. That's what we like. We like noise. We love noise, and we're so used to noise. Well, I never was still, and you know what? In turn, I didn't hear from God as much.
Yeah.
So it taught me because now I had 4 months in a halo. They drill in your skull here, and that's what you can see right here, wrinkles here. And then they drilled in your skull in the back. And I tell people all the time, I've always been an angel. I finally just got the halo to go with it. But I didn't have a choice. And so God slowed me down, and it was the best teacher in my life. It was the best thing that ever happened to me because I'm a way better husband because of it. I'm a way better father because of it. Like, everything in my life now is better because I experienced that.
Yeah, that's so good. I think one of the things that's so powerful about our faith is that God takes those moments, those difficult moments, those adversity moments, and he uses them to leverage us to what he wants to teach us. So often what we say is why? Why is this happening to me? Why did this happen to me? When we probably should be saying, God, what do you want to teach me through this? What do you want me to gain through this that I wouldn't otherwise ever have gotten a hold of? And yet God used that to then take you to a totally different place, a place you never saw for yourself. You weren't heading towards broadcasting. You weren't heading towards, I'm going to be the guy in the media.
Couldn't stand broadcasters.
Yeah, you weren't a big fan,
Couldn't
right?
stand them. Some of y'all probably can't either. I hate them.
Yeah.
Some of y'all probably hate me too.
But
Don't care if you like me, just respect me.
There you go. But God uses that to then kind of turn your trajectory in life and get you into broadcasting, ultimately leading you to College Game Day. Tell us about that journey a little bit.
Well, it's crazy because I'm watching SportsCenter, or I'm watching SportsCenter, ESPN, all that stuff in 2006. And some of y'all were so small, you're like, wow, let me take me back. I was in elementary school. But I was watching, and Georgia Kirk Herbstreit, blowhard on television. He was talking about Georgia shouldn't play for a national title because they didn't win their conference. LSU did. And I'm in Ohio in my neck brace. So beautiful picture. In my neck brace yelling at the TV. Yeah. And I'm like, what is this humpy talking about? Shut your mouth. And I'm making a case for Georgia. And I'm like, what is he talking about? Getting upset. Next day I call my agent. I'm like, hey man, I want to do TV, I think. He was like, what? I was like, yeah, I think I could do that. He's like, why? I was like, I think I checked the boxes. I'm opinionated, I'm loud, I'm obnoxious. Like, I think I'm perfectly made for these things, dude. And so that kind of started my journey. Like, and then I went to radio in Atlanta on 790 The Zone and really started to like learn the craft and learn how to formulate sentences. Because I don't know about if y'all know this or not, it's not a secret, but like these smart players usually play on offense. The dumber players usually play on defense. See ball, get ball, like very, very, very easy. Like, hey, defensive line, get in the stance, go get the ball. Got it, coach. So that makes it pretty easy. But man, you talk about like learning how to talk, and I really had to remind myself like this, and this is a good reminder for all of us. You know, I'm right here. I'm a freshman in college again. Like, I got to grind. I got to work. I want this. Mm-hmm. And by the way, my dream, as soon as I met with my TV agent, my dream was, he was like, what do you want to do? I was like, I want to do College Game Day. Mm-hmm. He was like, by the way, this is the same look I got in the NFL when I got patted on the head. It was like, yeah, that's great. That's the best show on ESPN Airways. Like, everybody wants to do that. I'm like, yeah, that's what I want to do. It's the same look. But I was like, okay, if I got to do that, I got to work now. I got to be great where I'm at. I got to put in reps. I got to figure out who I am as a broadcaster, which means you mess it up and you go again, you mess it up, you go again, you mess it up, you go again. And so crazy full circle. I'm doing a show called SEC Gridiron Live. Raise your hand if you heard of it. You ain't never heard of it. Don't raise your hand, anybody. Okay? My mama didn't even watch it. I know y'all didn't watch it. But like, I was doing that show and I get a phone call. I think it was like 12 to 2 or maybe 10 to 12 recaps and stuff. I get a phone call from Kirk Herbstreit. And he's like, hey, man, you're pretty good at this stuff. I was going through the channels and I saw you on Fox SEC Gridiron Live. I was like, oh, you were the one viewer tonight. Awesome. But like, he goes, I can tell you love the game of football. Mm-hmm. I love your passion. It comes through the screen. You should come to ESPN. I was like, oh, of course. Yeah, duh. And he was like, you should come on College Game Day this weekend. I was like, where are we at? He was like, Oregon. I was like, I'll come. He was like, well, I meant like beam you in, not actually come to game day. I was like, oh crap. Well, I come to Corvallis too, so it was just crazy that, you know, God used Kirk and used the situation. Yeah. And, but again, there's no way in heck, man. There's no way in heck that I get to where I got if God didn't break me, if God didn't take me here. And I love this. I love sharing this story. And if you think about this story in the Bible, Peter, who the church was built on, Peter, who was in Jesus's inner circle. Like, Peter was the man. He was the absolute man. And he goes, and what does Peter say? Peter denies Jesus 3 times, right? And then what happens? He goes back to his old life. He's like, I'm a failure. I messed up. He goes back to his old life, goes back and starts fishing again. Mm-hmm. Jesus appears to Peter. What does he say? He says, do you love me? And Peter says what? Yes, I love you. Jesus asks him again, do you love me? I love you. Ask him the 3rd time. What does Peter start doing? He starts weeping. He's crying because what does he remember? Where I denied Jesus 3 times. I was in his inner circle. I followed this dude all over the place, and I messed up and denied him, and I'm here. I'm the lowest point. And then what did Jesus do? Like, Peter, literally, the church was built on Peter. Because you know why? Because Peter could relate to everybody. Peter now was at a point in his life where he knows what it's like to wrong Jesus, to deny Jesus, to be at a low spot. And now when he's preaching to everybody else, he can preach the good news and he can share with them because he's experienced it. And it's the same thing for me. It's the same thing for y'all. We're all right. We're all messed up. We're all jacked up. We're messing things up as we go. But he comes in and he makes it right.
Yeah, it's powerful because I think for so many of us, when we set a goal in life, right, we set it out there in the future and we say, okay, from where I want to be to where I am, we draw a straight line. And we just kind of think that God's always going to keep me on that line. It's never going to diverge from the line. But that's not how it works. God's going to take you all over the place to build within us the things that he wants us to have to be able to do the things that he's calling us to ultimately do. And certainly your life is an example of that. Now listen, we got a lot of people in the room today and a lot of people watching online, high achievers that are doing different things, very successful in the things that they're a part of there. And certainly you are as well. I mean, you're all over the place, traveling a lot. Schedule's never the same week to week. And yet you've been able to figure out, how do I continue to make faith and my family a priority? Tell us a little bit more about how you do that.
Well, you put it in the right context first, faith first. And I can be in Oregon, I can be wherever I want, but we're going to be in church. Every Sunday. Every Sunday in the fall, we're in church. No matter what my schedule, my kids know we're in church. Wednesday nights, we go to church. Like, it's not an option. It's not something that we kind of got to try to make it. Every Sunday in the fall, there's nothing we do that takes us away from church.
It's good.
And again, what we model, we make. Like with our kids. So some of y'all in here love sports. Me, love sports. I love everything that comes with sports, discipline, toughness, winning, losing, facing that. But you know what? When we consistently skip church for sports, you're not saying it. You could say it differently. But what you show your kid is that sport is more important than God. And that might sting a little bit for some people. And by the way, my old self, 10 years ago, that would have stung a lot. 8 years ago, that would have stung. And then you go through rough spots in my marriage, and I'm not living the way I'm supposed to live, and my life is completely jacked up, because I wasn't in church. So it's a non-negotiable. Like, we will be in church. And sports, again, are awesome. Sports are those travel tournaments and all those extra tournaments, they're there to make money. You know what we think? We think we're getting behind. That's what happens. This kid's doing this. He's playing. My kid's not playing. They should be playing. I'm getting behind. No, they're not getting behind. Because you know what? My parents didn't put me in any personal training. My parents didn't give me a private coach. I didn't play sports every weekend. God gave me a talent. Like, it had nothing to do with you are way more likely to turn your kid's journey off than to turn it on. You're way more likely to push them the other direction than you are to push them to greatness. Because, anyways, we are going to model that and show them what's important. So faith is the most important thing. We're going to be at church. Really cool. My son's 14 now. He's an 8th grader. Wednesday night, we just started baseball. I was like, hey, man, wanting to give him a choice more. Hey, man, Wednesday night, we have baseball, we have church. What do you want to do? Church. Win. Because they're all going to hang their cleats up. And the percentages aren't going to be high that they're going to play in a high level of sports regardless. But I do know that every single thing they learn in church is going to carry with them till they're 40,
Strong, yeah.
till they're 50. Everything they learn in church is going to impact their character and who they are, impact God's relationship with them. Like, sports is amazing. It's awesome. But if it's what we let them do all the time, and that's the most important thing, that's what's driving. I mean, and people, I love this, and this will be the last thing I'll get back to you, but like, I love the people that say, but my kid wants it. My kid really wants it. My kid wants to do X, my kid wants to do Y. Okay? Got a question for you. Hey, Dad, if your kid wants to be a professional gamer, video gamer, you gonna let him play all day? Nope. Your kid want to be a professional eater? The next Joey Chestnut, you gonna let him crush donuts all day long? Just eat all day long? Nope. But you know what? It's acceptable in sport. It's okay because they're playing something. They're doing something. I want them to be good at this. Like, if sports is what you prioritize in your house, it's gonna be tough for your kid's journey in the future.
That's really strong. So certainly, church is a big part of your faith, big part of your family. So let me also ask you this question, because a lot of families in the room. How do you re-engage? Because obviously you get to travel a lot, but when you're at home, how are you fully present so you can fully engage with your kids?
When you're there, be there. I mean, I think that's a big point of emphasis for me. When I come home, I got to make sure that I put the phone away. I'm there. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of this, but have y'all ever heard of an RO box? Has anybody heard of an RO box? No. It's a box like this, and so it's an app that comes with your phone, and it measures the amount of time that your phone is in the box. So it's awesome because we have leaderboards. Men need scoreboards. Men and scoreboards. You know how we get. Told you I'm a little competitive. So it gives us a scoreboard. Every time you put it in the box, it starts counting how long it's in the box. So it's been awesome because we have competitions, family competitions now. Whose phone's in the box more? But I say, when you're there, be there. Because quality time isn't being in the same room. Quality time isn't being in the same house. I think we confuse that a lot. Like, I'm in the room with them. No, you're scrolling through your phone. You go on a date night with your wife and you're scrolling through your phone the whole time, good luck. That's going to go well. That's not engaging. Yeah. Like, When I'm there, I got to make sure I'm there, and I got to plug in, and I got to reinforce the things that are important in my life. Just recently, I told my wife, I was like, I got to do a way better job. We got to do a way better job I got to do a better job as a dad, being a spiritual leader and teaching them different things. And we went through the Roman road, and we're learning the Roman road together, and just reinforce the Passover at Easter, like teaching them and building knowledge upon knowledge so they can continue to be ready for whatever comes their way. But when we're there, we got to be there and we got to engage. And I don't care what it is, we got to plug into it. I can tell y'all this with 100% honesty, and it's probably not something I want to say, or you should say it to church or say to people maybe, but like Thomas the Train and all that crap I had to do, like dinosaur, I had to be a dinosaur on the trampoline, and I had to do all these things with my son that he wanted to do. I wanted to throw a ball with him because I love ball. That's what I love.
Yeah.
And I was like, when is he going to love that? And listen, when he picked up sports, I was like, praise Jesus. I was like jacked out of my mind because I didn't have to be a dinosaur on the trampoline anymore. But we gotta meet our kids where they're at.
Yeah.
We got to plug into where they're at. We got to be present when we're there. We got to build family habits that I think will help perpetuate that, like things that we're not going to compromise. We're not going to compromise dinner. Like we can have family dinner together. We're not going to compromise, prayer. That's not going to be something that's compromised. But I think when I'm home, I know I got to do a good job of being there, and I coach them in their sports so we can set the schedule and make sure that's how we want it ran. And so all those things, when we're home, when I get home, we got to prioritize family and show it and make it and model it for the kids.
That's powerful. So, one of the things that God's given you is he's not only giving you a platform and not only are you using that well to kind of encourage people towards thinking about football and sports and those kinds of things, but you're using it to talk a lot about faith and to talk about family, something I know you're very passionate about. Even long before, we invited you to come and be here, several people already listened to the Family Goals podcast. And for those who are unfamiliar with that, tell us a little bit more about that and how you're using that platform to talk about these issues.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
We started Family Goals podcast. Anybody can do a podcast, so we started it, me and my pastor started it in our closet at Greystone Church, and we were like, we talked about writing like a devotional book together, and I do this thing with parents, and we talked about goal setting, and actually this might be pertinent for some of y'all, but I talked about trying to help people let their kids find their own journeys and sitting down with them and asking questions about what's important to you, and then helping them set goals to kind of accomplish it. So that's what Family Goals came from, and talked about writing a book. And my pastor was like, all right, let's just do a podcast, and we'll let somebody take it and then write a book off of it. And I was like, cool. And then we started to do that. And then we started to hit topics like youth league sports, and we started to hit marriages, and we started to hit families and being a spouse, and we started to hit all these different things. And next thing you know, it was crazy. We had one recently that hit 1 million views of a podcast, which is nuts to think about something that we did. But it's all about helping you arm yourself, and it's all about helping you become the best version of you, teaching you practical ways of how are you going to put your. By the way, it's not a suggestion, in the Bible to, hey, please put your spouse first occasionally, like 2 or 3 times a day. Like, we're supposed to put our spouse first.
Yeah.
I am around a lot of people that their kids come first. That's not right, okay? Biblically, that's not right. That's not how we're supposed to do it to have a great marriage. And, like we talked about on the podcast, hey, man, ways that we do that and ways that we found have been successful, is simple. One thing I love to do is to tell my kids that. Like Leah, my 12-year-old daughter, she thinks she's number one in the household, and she thinks she runs the household. Oh, 12, by the way, that'd be another subject for another day. 12-year-old, raising middle school girls. Whew, a lot of prayer. But I'll tell Leah all the time, I'm like, Leah, you know who my favorite is? And she's like, me. I'm like, nope. Mommy right there.
Yeah. Mommy's
number one. Mommy was here before you, and mommy's going to be here after you. She is my number one. She is my number one on earth. Like, she is my first priority. And tangible ways to do that, like coming in the house. First thing I do when I come in the house, I hug mama. You're the most important thing. I've missed you the most, right? Like, I love you. You're my priority. Now, and again, I'm not saying my daughter doesn't beat my wife there. She's faster, okay? She might beat me to the door sometimes. But, trying to find, we did the 5 love languages. How many of y'all heard of the 5 love languages? Probably all of y'all, right? When it comes to marriage. Have you ever thought about it for your kids? Your kids feel love a certain way, just like you, just like your spouse. Have you thought about I need to know what my daughter's love language is. And we went through all the love language books, and then we went through ways in different stages of the life. Like my daughter's 12, okay? 7th grade, we're starting to get a little weird, all right? We're probably not gonna hold hands and skip through the mall anymore, okay? It's probably not gonna happen.
Yeah.
But my daughter is physical touch. So learning to put my hand on her shoulder and be like, hey, how was your day? I'm accomplishing physical touch, but it's not weird, okay? You know what I'm saying? Like finding ways to do that. And by the way, telling you we found a tangible way to, like, how do you figure out the love language of your daughter? This is really scientific, okay? This is gonna take years of philosophy and debate. Guess how I found out my daughters? Hey, Leah, how do you know daddy loves you? Because you hug me, because you kiss me. Ding, 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 physical touch, right? Like literally asking those questions to our kids will make you a better husband. Like another thing, learning this, or make you a better dad, excuse me. Another thing, which is really, really cool. I started doing this with my kids probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and it made a big difference in their thought process, okay? Nicholas, who's your wisest friend? Because guess what? Nicholas is answering that question. So now guess what Nicholas thinks about? When something happens in my life, who's my wisest friend? Who do I go to? I'm like, Nicholas, who no matter what you do is always gonna encourage you and stand up for you? Who's your friend that will stand up for you? I'm asking him, but he gets to answer the question. And then it puts it in his head, it puts it in his heart. And I've seen text messages with his girlfriend. I always do the quotes. I'm always going to, by the way, because they're friends. He's not allowed to have a girlfriend. Another topic, and again, for another day. But it's a girl that he talks to, and he told her one time, he's like, I wish you had a William in your life. And that's his buddy, who's his wisest friend, that helps him stay on the straight and narrow, that helps, put positive things in his heart, that loves on him no matter what, that he goes to church with, that he knows that but again, asking those questions. And so, we've kind of grown and had guests with Coach Rick and Tony Dungy, and we've had a bunch of people on, and we're going to have more folks on too that you'll know, but it's been amazing. It's been cool. It's been fun to see God using. I've had people today when we took pictures, they're like, I listen to your family, and it still trips me out because I'm like, really? Why? That's crazy that people listen to it, and because we're just people that are messing it up, that are trying to help you figure it out too.
Sure.
On there it's gonna be like, listen, I got no clue. My daughter Leah, she's 12, and I'm trying to figure this out. This worked this day. I hope it works tomorrow, for goodness sakes,
Yeah. It was so good. I want to encourage you to, if you're in the parenting journey anywhere, I encourage you to grab it, listen to it, because it is just a couple of guys who are in the thick of it, trying to take biblical principles and put them into 2023 parenting, 2023 career, 2023 marriage, and figure out how do I apply this to life. So it's I highly commend Family Goals to you. Okay, 3 quick questions that I want to ask you to kind of speak into those that are watching today, and those who are here in the room, those who are watching over in the chapel. And here's the first one. For the 9th grade Davy in the room, okay, if you could speak to the person that was where you are when you were in 9th grade, the kid who's here just trying to figure it out, I've got a dream, there's something I want, it may not be NFL, maybe something else, but I've got a dream and I want to get there, what would you say to that 9th grader?
If it was a Davy, I'd slap him. I mean, goodness gracious, he'd have worn me slap out. I think what I said earlier is, don't let people define your dreams. Don't let people tell you what you can and can't do. And by the way, I think that's for parents too. Yes, there is a great chance your kid's not going to play in the NFL. But if they say they want to do it, that doesn't mean we got to squash it, okay? Like, I think we can still support them and love them and be like, hey man, chase your dreams. So I would say chase your dreams. I would say work hard. I would say do everything you can to try to accomplish whatever your goals are, whatever your dreams are. I would say also that you're also going to learn to, that again, messing up along the way is going to be part of your journey. You're going to have to, and just like coaching your kids, I did such a poor job when my kids were young, but all your kids are doing is they're trying to figure out what their game is in whatever sport it is. And so why are we going to get on them every time they mess up? Because they're just trying to figure it out. They got to figure it out. And how are they going to figure it out? They're going to figure it out by messing it up, right? So don't be afraid to mess it up. Don't be afraid to put everything you have into something. I would say the caveat would be is at some point you'll hang those cleats up. At some point, those cleats are going to be hung up. At some point, it's going to be hung up. And what are you going to be? What are you going to be known for? What's going to be important in your life? But I think there's a lot of things I would say. Obviously, you said quickly. That wasn't quickly either, but that'd be one of them.
Let me kind of flip that a little bit and say, okay, so what would you say to the dad in the room? He's got influence for his kids. What would you encourage him as he's on that same journey you're on, 12-year-old, 14-year-old? What would you say as a word of encouragement to him?
Shut up. I mean, honest to goodness, dads, like our job is to help them. First of all, our job is to love them. Our job is to show them characteristics that we want them to become. Because whatever you show them, whatever you make, they're going to model, right? Like more is caught than taught. So we can talk all we want till we're blue in the face. But what you show them is what they're going to do. The habits you create, and like one thing I love doing, and I stopped reading my Bible on my iPhone. I had a great streak going on the app too, on the Holy Bible app. But I stopped reading the Bible. I stopped reading, and I stopped my streak, and I got my Bible, and I sit at the table, and I want them to see me in the morning reading my Bible. I want them to see me, like they're looking, and they're not listening as much as they're looking. Like they're gonna see how you treat people. They're gonna see how you talk to mommy. They're gonna see what a husband's supposed to look like. They're gonna see what a follower of Christ is supposed to look like. You know, they're learning from us all along the way. And so I think we've got to be really good at letting them do them, letting them embrace who they are, supporting them, you know, training them, modeling, teaching them. But I think we got to realize, as the faster we realize that it's their journey, and it took me a long time, man. It took me till Nicholas 2 years ago was in 7th grade to fully embrace it. Like, it's his journey. He decides what he's going to be. He decides whether he wants a genuine walk with Jesus. He decides whether he wants to be a great basketball player. He decides if he wants to be a great football player. Like, those are his decisions. But if we support him and we model and we speak to people with respect and love on people, you're gonna make somebody that's very similar to you.
It's good. It's really good. Let me give you this last one here. What would you say to the person in the room who's like you? I mean, they didn't necessarily grow up around all of this. They've not really explored it for themselves. What would you say the person is yet? Is it they came out today because they wanted to hear somebody talk about football and want to hear somebody talk about sports, that kind of thing. But what would you say to the person out there that's yet to have made their faith decision to follow Jesus Christ? What would you encourage them to do?
Well, I think we get caught up in what, and this is all realms of life, what social media says, what certain people say, what certain people do. And we kind of forget to learn things and do things for ourselves. I think we get caught up in that a lot in this world. So I would encourage everybody, don't look at Christians a lot of times and just because we fly off the handle, because we're flawed. Like, we're going to mess up. We're not the best example all the time of our faith.
Right.
Unfortunately, I think we turn a lot of people off to our faith in church because of how we act and because of how we are. But I would say, if you're that person, check out the Bible for yourself. Like, the Bible isn't a Jesus story. Jesus is the story. The Bible was written about him and his life. And meanwhile, there's kings in that time and rulers in that time, king after king after king, that if you look in the footnote of history, it's about this big. This is what they did. But we got a whole Bible full of Jesus. And I would read it for yourself. I would formulate questions for yourself. I would read about who this guy was, what he said he did, what he didn't do. And then I think you can start to see things for yourself, have questions for yourself that you want to get answered. You go see people that will get your questions answered. Obviously, the church is a good starting spot for that. But I wouldn't take society's, view on everything. That's what I did. I literally picked that thing up. I don't know why. I think a lot of it had to do with Mr. Watson and just trying to make him look like an idiot and tick him off. I think honestly I honestly think a lot of it had a lot to do with that. And then that book completely changed my whole direction in my life. It didn't make me perfect. Right. Like, I'll never forget, I got saved my senior year. I was reading my Bible. I go to school and we're at lunch and my buddies curse. And I was like, don't curse. That's not of God. And they're like, whoa, who's this guy? And then like 3 minutes later, something happens and he ticked me off and I let one slip. My mom always let him slip, so I took after my mom. She always cursed, and I let one slip, and I was like, crap. But it's a process, right? Like I had to continue to learn, continue to grow. But man, I think you can, if you really find people that you respect, you really find people that you love and how they act and how they carry themselves, a lot of times you see they got a little something different about them. And that book for me changed my thoughts, changed my future, changed my eternity.
Yeah.
And here's another thing too. What do you have to lose not reading that? A whole lot. A whole lot. Like the stakes are real. What do you have to lose reading it? You got nothing to lose, man.
Yeah.
Read it. You can disagree with it. You can make your own decisions, but you got to read it to understand, to have some of those questions.
That's really good. It's really good. Y'all help me thank David Pollack for this.
Appreciate it, brother.
Incredible. This is incredible. So good.